Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Sports Fall Jersey. Joe Archino back here, and finally, it is time again to talk Manchester City. I've been very critical of the club this week, and really, it's formed on the opinion that the competitive advantage is not in Manchester City's favor. You look at the opponents and their schedule, and it's not much of anything. They've really failed against all of the top clubs this season. They've walked away with a loss and a draw against Leicester City. They've lost to Arsenal their first time that they played. They lost both times to Tottenham Hotspur. When you look at the top clubs and the clubs that matter in the English Premier League, there's no other way of saying it than that Manchester City has failed miserably or drawn. And for a club with such huge expectations this season, with guys like Raheem Sterling and Kevin De Bruyne, spent massive amounts of money to improve the club. The improvements just have not shown. And for a club like this, with such high expectations and such amount of money and luster, it just hasn't been good enough. Now, they're in a position where I think they're looking to the future as more than anything, because with Pep Guardiola coming in, that's such a name, and there's so many things there. Players, I think, thinking, am I going to be here when Pep Guardiola arrives? And more than anything, they struggle to play as a team. It will get better in the future. I don't have any doubts about what Pep Guardiola can do for Manchester City Football Club. But with the task at hand, the goal was clear for the season, as it is for everyone. Win the Premier League title, and that is no longer in their capabilities. They're in fourth place, and they have not shown the consistency or holding the competitive advantage it takes to win this title, and they won't. Where they can maybe redeem themselves a bit is in the FA Cup. Now, they have a big match coming up against Chelsea this weekend. Chelsea coming off a loss to the PSG in the Champions League. So they are playing a Chelsea team that played a big game. They're unbeaten in their last 10 Premier League matches. So they're playing well against English opponents, but they come off a very tough loss in the Champions League to a very good PSG team. So they're not as rested as Man City is, and the only way they can save a little bit of face on this season is by doing well in this competition. Now, the FA Cup is not comparable to the Premier League title in any way, and especially for City, if that's the only hardware they walk away with this season, it will still be extraordinarily disappointing, but you have to walk away with something this season for your efforts. You can't end this season with trophyless. It really would be unacceptable with the amount of talent on this roster and the amount of money that they spent to bring in so many players to walk away with nothing. Is it possible? Absolutely. Again, it is very alarming to me that they have not held the competitive advantage against any clubs that have mattered, against Everton or against West Ham United or Tottenham Hotspur or Arsenal or Liverpool. The list goes on, and if you're not even holding somewhat of an advantage over these clubs, it's easy to figure out you are not a good club. It's difficult to say that with the amount of talent that they have, and especially with the way they started their season. 5 wins from 5, no goals conceded. They were perfect to start the season. David Silva looked like the best player in the Premier League. Vincent Kompany was healthy, but then David Silva got hurt. Vincent Kompany got hurt. Before long, you knew it. Sergio Aguero was hurt. The kind of injuries, things kind of started going against Manchester City, and now we're at this point where they find themselves in fourth place, and a Premier League title looks very, very unachievable at this point. Again, there's still a lot of football to be played, but you have to look at this from a realistic standpoint, and if you do, you know Manchester City is not capable of winning the title. The only kind of thing that they can do to save their season, or at least walk away with something, is to do well in the FA Cup. I really think they really have to. It's not a competition that's comparable, like I said before, but you can't walk away empty-handed, and there are other things that are kind of going against City at this moment. They're looking at the future, which I think is difficult. It's such a distraction with such a big, huge presence of a name like Pep Guardiola coming in, and I have no doubts that City can control the future, but the present task at hand dictates that they should have won the title, and they won't do so. All they can do at this point is look to the FA Cup. It all starts with Chelsea this weekend, and at this point you have to think that they've got somewhat of an advantage, being that Chelsea just played a big game against PSG in the Champions League. City's coming off a crushing loss to Tottenham Hotspur at the Etihad, so this is not an easy club to pick to pick their matches, but I do think that they will get it not a pretty one, because nothing they've done this season has been pretty, but I do think that they will find a way to get this win against Chelsea and continue to at least do something significant in the FA Cup, because other than that, that's all they really are playing for at this point. They'll be in it. It'll be thick and through at the Premier League to the end, but they just don't hold the competitive advantage against the clubs that matter. And they have another match they're going to play against Arsenal, and I don't see that going well. None of their matches against the good clubs go well, and there's a reason for that. They don't play as a team, and those things will need to be addressed in the future, but it is the present for Manchester City Football Club, and in this present, it just does not look good. And we'll certainly continue to watch Manchester City and see if they can do anything, but the future looks bright right now, not so much. Jersey Joe Archino here with the Sports Vault. You can follow me on Twitter at Joe Archino, on Instagram, Jersey_Joe_Archino, and we'll see everybody next time.